All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to answer probably the oldest question in the universe, which is, are coilovers good for daily driving? So there's a whole argument that goes into this, and there's people on both sides of the camp, and I'm going to give you my opinion on this one, having actually daily driven cars with coilovers for probably 10 years now, as well as tracked them. So ultimately, the answer to this question is, it depends. Now, there's a lot of things that come into the equation when it comes to coilovers and daily driving, and basically this question stems from the assumption that coilovers are uncomfortable and stiff and therefore not good for daily driving. That's basically the issue if you think about it. So firstly, I want to address that point. So when it comes to comfort, one big differentiating factor there is what coilover kit are we talking about here? I think that belief has stemmed from the fact that people buy the cheapest coilover kit they can find, which are usually too stiff, the dampers suck, they're not matched to the springs, and a whole bunch of other problems. And then they ride like crap, and then they say that coilovers are not good for daily driving. But that's just actually false, when there are a lot of coilover kits that are actually designed with comfort in mind and will do a decent job when it comes to daily driving. Now, the other big differentiating factor is going to be you, the driver. How comfortable do you need the car to be in order to consider it acceptable for daily driving? So me personally, I was willing to drive on a car with stiffer suspension, and especially in my late teens, early 20s, I even did more extreme things like, cut springs with blown dampers and things like that. So I was willing to take that thing. I'm a little bit older now, and so I want some comfort on the street. I can appreciate why you'd want that. But I personally still don't mind having a stiff, let's say, track setup on a car that I drive relatively regularly on the street. That to me doesn't bother me. However, if you want more comfort, or let's say you're driving your family around and you have kids in the car and things like that, maybe you really need them to be soft. And in that case, maybe coilovers are not the best option for you, and potentially having lowering springs with factory dampers that are not much lower is the best option. There are actually very few instances where I will recommend lowering springs, but if your full priority is ride comfort and you only want to lower the car like 20 mil and you have good dampers in there, like the factory shocks, and you can reuse them, then in that case the lowering springs are probably a better option, because they will typically be softer. You'll have the stock rubber upper mounts and things like that. However, there are coilover kits that are designed very similar to factory dampers with rubber top mounts, twin tube dampers, which are going to be more comfortable. By the way, I made a video about twin tube versus mono tube. You should go watch that. If you don't know the difference, click that up there or the link below in the description, and I'll talk about that in that video and explain why that's relevant for comfort. But basically, let's say one kit, which I'm going to go into later and give you the recommended kits at the end of the video for daily driving, but let's say, for example, the Tane Flex Z kit has twin tube dampers and rubber upper mounts, which is going to be a lot more comfortable for the street. And so therefore, there are definitely options there if you're willing to get a good quality kit and not just the cheapest $300, $400 coilover you can find, which I think are going to be perfectly fine for actually 95% of people on the daily driver. However, there are a couple of things to consider when it comes to selecting coilovers for daily driving. So the things you want to consider are, the first one is dampers. So dampers are going to make a big difference in terms of how the car rides, and you have a lot of different factors. You got twin tube versus mono tube. Like I said, go watch that video. You've also got, are they actually quality? Are they going to match the spring rates, etc., etc.? And so you want to select a coilover kit that has dampers that are more suited to street use. And so basically, my recommendation would be go for a twin tube if possible, or a mono tube that's on the softer side with linear damping. So a coilover that's basically been designed for street use, maybe something like a BC Racing BR series, or if you have more money, something like a Öhlins Road and Track or RSR. Like I said, I'm going to go into a list of these at the end of the video, but those are more designed for comfort, and so therefore you will get more comfort from them, and so that's going to make them more appropriate for this. Now, another one is going to be the spring rates. So you want to get a kit that's got obviously spring rates that match the dampers, but they'll be on the softer side. So some kits are made with stiffer springs for more track use, and some are made for softer springs, softer spring rates for more comfort, so you want to get them. Another thing you might want to consider is Swift springs, because Swift springs are known to ride a lot better than basically any other spring. They're considered the best spring on the market, and that's why most coilover companies actually offer them as an upgrade. And it's also said that a Swift spring of a, let's say 12 kg Swift spring will ride like a 1 rating below that. So a 12 kg Swift spring will ride like a 10 kg normal spring. And so you get the benefit of a slightly stiffer spring with a good ride as well. So if you have the money, I would definitely, for daily driving, I would upgrade to Swift springs as well. And you may as well get that extra bit of comfort while you're at it. Now, the next thing is top mounts. So basically the two major things you get with top mounts are either rubber or pillow ball. If you're focused on comfort, you want to avoid pillow ball if possible. And the reason why is because it's basically metal on metal. And so you're going to feel a lot more through the road. And so that's going to obviously impact the comfort. Whereas rubber mounts, while they won't be as good for performance and handling, they'll have a bit of deflection and a bit of movement and play. They will soak up bumps more, and so you won't feel as much, and therefore that's going to help you with comfort. And so you want to look for rubber top mounts for daily driver ones if coilovers are your priority. Now, the next thing is the overall quality of the kit itself. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm just going to put it there. I kind of already covered this, but you want to look for a quality kit. Don't get the cheapest kit with the cheapest parts. It's going to ride like ass. You want to find a good quality kit that has good quality parts, has actually been tuned for comfort, and that's going to help you to get a kit that's actually going to ride very well. So the last thing I want to address before I give you the recommended kit is versus lowering springs. So what about lowering springs? So I already kind of mentioned that at the beginning, but lowering springs, if you don't need the adjustability from a coilover, then lowering springs for daily driving are actually probably a good option. I don't particularly care for lowering springs overall myself. I prefer coilovers if you can. I made a video about this as well, so I recommend you go watch that. The link will be above and in the description below, so you can see my full opinion on that. However, if your priority is fully comfort, you only want a little bit of lowering, maybe a little bit of extra performance and handling performance, then lowering springs in this specific scenario might actually be a good option. And another instance where they might be a good idea is in newer cars that have like self-leveling and all these different systems a lot of new cars have. In some cases, coilovers are actually going to be impractical to install because they're not going to be compatible with all those systems. So in that case, lowering springs could be a good option as well. So those are the two, basically the only two times I would ever recommend lowering springs, but it's something to consider. Now, the last thing I want to do is I want to give you a couple of options in terms of recommended kits for daily driving if you are concerned about comfort. So these kits are the ones that are known to be more either designed for daily driving, so they'll be on the softer side or on the more comfortable side generally. So the first one I want to recommend is the Tane Flex Z. This is a kit that's under $1,000 and is actually very good. It's made in Yokohama, Japan by Tane, who are a very well-known suspension company. They make good quality products, and this one particularly has twin tube dampers and rubber top mounts. So it's going to be a lot more comfortable for the street. They're more designed for comfort on the street, which can handle a bit of track use, but they're more on the street side. So I definitely recommend them if you want to get a street-oriented coilover. The only downside is that they're basically only made for Japanese cars. It's very few other cars that have them. So if you've got a European car or an American car, it's going to be, you probably won't have a Tane Flex Z option. So in that case, you can't get them. The next one I would recommend is BC Racing BR Series. These are slightly more performance oriented, but they are still designed primarily as a street coilover. So these have monotube dampers, and they do, some of them I think depending on what specs you are option, they either have rubber top mounts or they can have pillow ball. So if you go for the rubber top mount version, then you'll obviously have a more comfortable ride. Even with the pillow ball, you'll probably get away with it. You'll feel more through it like I mentioned earlier, but basically they're more designed as a street kit, so they're more on the comfort side, and these you can actually upgrade to have Swift springs as well. So I'd get the Swift springs if you're getting these, and that's going to help. Now, just a quick note, both of these offer dampening adjustment as well. So you'll probably want to get a kit with dampening adjustment because that's going to allow you to tone it down or to tone it on full soft, and then it's going to be softer as well, so that'll help. Now, the next ones I'd recommend are RSR. So RSR is a Japanese company. Unfortunately, their range is very limited. However, they make extremely high quality kits, which are very well known for being super comfortable. So if they make a kit for your car and you have the budget, they usually go for more closer to the $2,000 range. But if you have a budget, I'd recommend going for RSR. The next one I'd recommend is Öhlins Road and Track. These are another very high quality kit. Not cheap by any means. They're a couple grand, I'm pretty sure. And again, kind of limited. They're only really made for more popular cars that are more popular for modifying. However, they're a very good quality kit. and they're designed for making a really good balance between road comfort and track performance. So I'd recommend them if you have the budget for them as well. The next one is Revel. So Revel Touring are actually very good comfort-based coilovers. They're designed to be super quiet and super comfortable, so they will be another good kit for the street as well. And then the last ones I'll put on here is KW. KW are pretty expensive, I think personally, but they're also decent quality, and KW do put a lot of effort into tuning their kits to make them specific to the car and make them very good quality. So if you get a more street-oriented kit like a V1 to V3, they're more on the street side, and so they will be a lot more comfortable for the street as well. And a lot of them use the V1, V2s, and I think the V3s, as long as they're not the Club Sports, use the factory top mounts as well. So you'll have the rubber top mount, which is going to make the ride a bit more comfortable as well. Now, the V1 doesn't have dampening adjustment. I think the V2 does, and the V3 does as well. So those will give you the dampening adjustment. So those would be my recommendations for coilover kits. I'm going to put links to all these in the description below as well, so you can grab them if you want to grab them. But these are the ones I would recommend buying if you're looking for a daily driver coilover kit. So basically, like I said here, twin tube or monotube dampers. I'll just go over the features. Twin tube or softer monotubes, let's say. Softer monotube. This is what you want to look for. Rubber top mounts, softer spring rates, and dampening adjustment would be my recommendation. So those are the features I'd be looking for a daily driver coilover. So that's basically it for this video. Hopefully that answered this question finally. If you just don't care about the ride and you're willing to drive on a stiffer car, then you can basically get any coilover you want and just daily drive it, and who cares? I did that and I didn't care personally, and I would do it again. I'm going to put coilovers in the next car I buy too, so I personally don't mind. But again, the biggest differentiating factor to answer this question is going to be you, the driver. So you ultimately need to decide, but this is my opinion. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you have any questions or comments, just put them in the comments below and I'll answer them. Otherwise, if you are looking to buy coilovers, go check out our website, nefariousracing.com. Currently, we have, of this list, we stock the BC Racing BR series. Otherwise, I can direct you to somebody else who can supply these kits for you as well. So that's that. If you need help still deciding on the right coilover kit for your car, just shoot us an email through the website and we'll help you select the right kit for your car. Hope you enjoyed this one. Catch you on the next one.